conference tournament records. How much does that help Vermont?
Well, I think, Trey, that it helps them tremendously. The idea that all those kids that are going to play today, except for Trimboli, have been in this kind of situation before. They've been in either one or two championship games. And if I could, just for 1 second, I would like to say that I want to congratulate the Burlington High Seahorses, who won the state championship last night, and coached by my former great Matt Johnson. I told the boys I'd give them a little love.
This is the kind of information you can only get from Tom Brennan, ladies and gentlemen. The Seahorses make the program, and we are darn proud of that. Meanwhile, the other side of the equation, the Albany Great Danes trying to get into the tournament for the first time in Division I. What's the key for this squad here?
Well, I think the nervousness factor is going to be a big deal, Trey. My feeling is that when you play in this game for the first time on national television, first time in this kind of environment, it makes it a little bit difficult. But they have a kid named Jameer Wilson, who's a fabulous little guard, does all the things that you want in a great player. He's the league MVP. Will Brown has done a great job coaching the team, and he's got one of my former assistants, Pat Fillion, with him now, which will help him in terms of getting ready for the Cats.
We'll see what happens. No Taylor Coppenrath, no Tom Brennan. We'll see if Vermont, by the way, can make it 4 straight appearances into the NCAAs. Meanwhile, good news for Villanova. Alan Ray, the guard who suffered this gruesome injury to his eye in the Big East tournament last night. Good news, has been released from the hospital. Vision has been restored in that eye. Andy Katz reporting he could play as early as next week. So good news for Alan Ray. If you saw it at the time, it did not look good at all. We'll keep you updated all day long. Now the America East Conference Championship. Let's send that out to Albany. Bob Wischusen and Donnie Marshall.
They started lining up at 9 p.m. Thursday night. Many Albany students desperate for the precious few tickets available. About 33 hours later, yes, following the Breakfast of Champions, they are in a frenzy here inside their rack. The Great Danes are one step away from the big dance. Can they make it? Well, here's Albany head coach Will Brown just a few moments ago inside the Danes locker room.
Every practice schedule, all right, every scouting report, everything we've done from day one. All right, you've busted your butt to get to this point. We've got a great opportunity in front of us. We execute on both ends of the floor. All right, we stick together. We're not losing this game.
The Great Danes leaving the locker room a moment ago, and the locals are calling this the biggest on-campus sporting event in Capital District history. As Championship Week presented by 7-Up continues, this is the America East Championship game, Albany and Vermont. Albany is the top seed. They had double-digit wins in both of their quarterfinal and semifinal matchups, while Vermont, they're now the Cinderella team here at America East. The Catamounts, the 6th seed, pulling off upsets over BU and Binghamton. Hi again, everyone, and welcome here to Albany. What an atmosphere we have for the America East Championship game. Bob Wischusen and Donnie Marshall with you, and really polar opposites of where we're used to seeing these two teams in this conference.
Bob, they really are. I walked in the building today and I was greeted by some Vermont fans, and they said, welcome to the Vermont Classic. Only problem, no Tom Brennan, no Coppenrath, no Sorrentine, and a very, very young Vermont team. And on the other side, Albany looking for a lot of firsts. First time ever winning the America East Championship. First time ever in a game today in the America East Championship game. And if they win today, first time ever going to the NCAA tournament.
And for the first time, they have the America East Player of the Year. They have counted on Jamar Wilson all season long. They will certainly do so today.
I like Jamar Wilson. He's got a little bit of that New York game in him. He's from the Bronx. 17 points a game. America East Player of the Year. He's a slasher penetrator. Also does a great job of getting his teammates involved. And on the other side, Mike Trimboli, a freshman from Norwalk, Connecticut. Young, very quick, 163 assists on the season.
The starting lineups today, especially for Vermont, featuring youth and plenty of it. Martin Klemesh is the only returning starter from last year's team. Trimboli, a freshman. Siplicki, a sophomore. Chris Holm, a redshirt junior. Colin McIntosh is a freshman. Jamar Wilson helped out by Kirsten Zellner in the middle for the Great Danes. An America East third-team selection at 7'1". He is the tallest player in UAlbany history. Vermont wearing the road green, Albany in their home gold, and we are set to find out who the next entrant into the field of 64 will be. The America East champion gets an automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. Bob Adams, John Hughes, Fran Connolly are the officials, and the Danes control the opening tip.
Bob, you talked about polar opposites. Albany very athletic. Vermont's going to have to counter that by being much smarter because they are not as athletic.
Lucius Jordan steps back with 15 to shoot. He will launch, and he connects. A triple for Lucius Jordan, and Albany on the board.
And those are the shots right there that you cannot live with if you're Vermont. If Albany starts hitting big, big shots, it really will take the air out of this young Vermont team.
You wonder what type of experience the Vermont young players have gotten this season and how that might pay off today as Trimboli takes a very hard shot, loses it, and here comes Lillis. Finds Jordan in transition. They set up a triple from the top of the key and knocking it down, Brent Wilson.
And this is the emotion that Albany's been playing on all season. Again, understanding as a team that they've never been to in a situation like this, never been to the NCAA tournament. So you'll use that emotion and hopefully play better. And so far, great start for Albany.
The two teams split the season series, but you'd have to say that this is about as bad a possible start as Vermont could have hoped for. A blocking foul called against Brian Lillis. Well, Will Brown in his 5th season, only 34 years old. He is the 11th youngest head coach in Division I. Previously, he was the head coach at Sullivan County Community College, but came here and has taken Albany now in only their 7th season of Division I basketball. Their previous 6 seasons, Albany had been below 500 every single year. This year, they're a 20-win team, tops in their conference, and on the verge of going to the NCAA tournament if they survive today.
It's pretty special when you think about it because you have that stigma. People say, hey, are you Division I or what are you now? And a win today in a game like this, everyone in the country will know that Albany is serious.
Down to 15 seconds on the shot clock. Clemesh threw it away. Numbers as Lillis on the right side dumps it off to Lucius Jordan. He hits. He has 5, and it's a shutout so far for the Great Danes. 8-0, 2 minutes in.
Vermont's got to keep the floor spaced, make Albany come out and play them.
Inside, finally getting a bucket up on the board is Martin Clemesh. Again, a captain and the only returning starter from last year's title team.
Well, Bob, you could see the spacing, and Clemesh had a little bit more room to work down there. Not those hands in the passing lanes when the offense gets tight.
Mike Lonergan said before the game that they really needed to try and hold as best they could Albany down, in that they didn't feel as if as Zellner pins the ball up between the rim and the backboard. And Lonergan said in his first season, as he comes and replaces the Vermont legend in Tom Brennan, he felt he needed this game to be somewhere in the mid-60s, and that his team, he felt, was going to have to score more than they normally would score per game. They average about 64 points per game, but they're up against the top scoring team in America East in Albany, and he just didn't feel as if his group could keep them down.
Well, I'll take it a couple more steps than that. If you think about the last 4 national champions, they've scored in the 80s, and when you talk about winning championships, you have to score more points. You're forced to play sometimes to a level of the better competition.
5 seconds on the shot clock for Chris Holm, who banks one in. And it's 8-4, as 4 points have now cut the lead in half for the Catamounts.
I like that. Great drive, little penetration. Big fella steps out. Nice touch off the glass.
Jump hook along the baseline for Brent Wilson is a miss, and the rebound off to Colin McIntosh. Here come the Catamounts. Trimboli hard to the bucket. Can't put it home. And a transition opportunity the other way now for the Great Danes. Wilson, he's got it, plus the foul. Jamar Wilson with a chance for a three-point play.
And this is what you get from an Albany team that understands their roles, and they're a little bit more mature than Vermont. Lucius Jordan was pushing the ball, and you see him looking. I'm going to give it to the player of the year in the America East, Jamar Wilson, and a great finish there. Saplicki just stepped in just a little too late.
The officials at the scorer's table momentarily. We had a clock malfunction. The scoreboard clock above the basket to our right. Shot clock and game clock had shut off for a moment. Now they have it reactivated. Both teams went to their benches, and now they will return for Jamar Wilson's free throw. And Wilson, he's really an amazing story. Leads America East not only in points, but also in assists. He's the first player in Albany history to go over 1,500 career points and 300 career assists. He's from Long Island, and so is Will Brown, the head coach for the Great Danes. His father, Will Brown's father, was a head coach for a long time, nearly 20 years on Long Island, and found Jamar Wilson, for the most part, at a Suffolk County versus Nassau County All-Star game, and calls up his son and says, you know what, son, you really need to go and give this guy a call. And they pursued him aggressively, convinced him that he could be the foundation layer for a program here at Albany, and they convinced Jamar Wilson to come up to Albany and play for the Great Danes. As once again now the clock is giving the officials problems. Apparently the crowd has gathered around the stands at the point someone kicked the plug out.
I think that was the problem. The fans are so into it, they're jumping up and down on the standard there behind the basket. That might have jogged loose the plug. But I had a question for you. Was that legal for his? Was he spying? Technically.
Well, it's a summertime all-star game, and Will Brown, you can see the improvement that he has made in his 5 years at Albany, due in large part to the recruitment of Jamar Wilson. Will Brown wasn't at the game. No coaches were allowed to be at the game, but if you have an acquaintance, and apparently he had quite a tight one, and his father at the game, and Dad calls up and says, I found a star for you. Well, that's the kind of scouting report. We have heard a lot of unusual stories about what a small world college basketball is, and sometimes where coaches find players. And this is just another example of a coach getting a call from his dad, who's also a coach, saying, I have a foundation builder for your program. And it turned out that Will Brown really needed to do a selling job on Jamar Wilson, who was being recruited by some of the New York City schools like Iona to come up to Albany, and he did. And now the officials are making an announcement, the public address system making an announcement to the students around the back of the basketball stanchion to try and avoid kicking the plug out of the clock on top of the scoreboard. I mean, really, there's almost no room behind the baskets between the playing surface and how closely the students and cheerleaders are crowding the court, as they have slammed about every possible body for this championship game in here that you could imagine.
And you think these students don't understand how big this game is and what a good outcome for Albany will mean for this team and this university? They're already in a ruckus early in this game.
So Wilson, after a long delay, steps up, knocks down the free throw, and a turnover. Vermont throws it away in the backcourt. Albany has it once again, following Jamar Wilson's three-point play with a chance to extend their 7-point lead.
And we haven't seen Albany in the half court, really. They've come down, hit a couple threes early. Nice pull-up by Lucius Jordan in transition. And
Zellner bowls over his man and banks it home. Trimboli stepped in and tried to draw the charge. No call from the officials, and it's a 9-point lead for Albany.
You know, a lot of teams around the league talk about Zollner as being just a big body, not a guy who's going to be in any statistical categories. But I tell you what, that was a solid move right there. He is big, Bob, but that was a great move right there.
A transfer from Boston College that was forced after playing very, very limited minutes at Boston College for 2 years to sit out last year. 10 seconds on the shot clock and another turnover. Inside, Mike Trimboli lost it. When we come back, we will get an update of the Conference USA tournament back in our Bristol studios.
The NCAA Women's Basketball Championship begins March 18th.
7-Up Plus with calcium. With a burst of real fruit juice, 10% of your daily calcium, and only 10 calories per serving. It's one thing strong women everywhere can't get enough of.
Manager to the front.
7-Up Plus. For great taste with calcium, the only way to go is up.
Call office.
Office.
Call Erica.
Colwyn.
Fort Wayne.
Fort Worth. 75 degrees.
72 degrees.
83.
88.6 FM.
Volume up.
Up.
Up. Up.
Volume down.
Chinese.
Seafood.
Mexican.
Italian. Display map.
Zoom in.
Zoom out. Out. Out.
Of all its abilities,
Call home.
listening may be its most impressive. The voice-activated Accurate TL.
Some things you just can't.
Last year's America East Final was a championship game, but it was really more a catamount celebration. And what would be the coach's final home game? Vermont dominated Northeastern, helped out by Taylor Coppenrath, 37 points. He hit 17 of 24 from the field. His fellow senior star, TJ Sorrentine, of course, would help win their third straight America East title. And, Coach, this must be a very tough afternoon for you watching your old team play here at Albany.
There's no doubt about it, Bobby. You know, I worked hard to become an expert. I don't want to be a coach anymore, but this day really is tough for me. And if you want objectivity, you got to go to Mr. Wingo, because I'm rooting for the green team.
Well, that is certainly understandable. And, you know, it's funny. We talked to Mike Lonergan before the game, and he talked about how supportive you have been of him as a rookie head coach now, taking over a program that lost so much talent.
Yeah, it's a tough spot for him. There's no doubt about that. And those are my boys, the guys that are out there on the court. They all played for us. And, you know, I love those kids, and they made me what I am today. So, obviously, there's just a love affair between me and Vermont.
Coach Tom Brennan, we appreciate it. We'll be checking back in with our ESPN studios with Trey and Tom in just a bit. But right now, Vermont needs a stop as they trail Albany 13-4, and inside Zellner will head to the line.
And you can just see the look on Vermont's face right now, like what is happening. The thing that they're lacking, Bob, is that one guy to grab them all together and say, calm down, let's just play Vermont Catamount basketball. Don't worry about who we're playing against. We have to run our stuff, and we have to help defensively, and right now, no one's really doing that.
The tallest player in Albany history, Zellner, only a 47% free throw shooter, steps to the line and knocks down the first. And Will Brown telling us about Zellner, saying, throw the statistics out the window. His impact on games is that he is a space eater. And at 7'2" in this conference, and a tip-in follow by Brian Lillis turns it into a three-point trip. He disrupts so much on the defensive end, as we'll take a look at him in the paint here. A rejection inside. What a start it's been for Brian Lillis. 16-4, Albany on top. And a reminder that the Phillips Big 12 Championship will be coming up a little bit later on. Today at 2 p.m. Eastern, Texas A&M taking on number 8 Texas. And then at Nebraska. And number 18 Kansas will follow. So we'll see the Big 12 doubleheader a little bit later on today.
And you can just see, Bob, across the board how much stronger and bigger Albany is. And the one thing, if you're Vermont, you can't get outworked. Size, strength, and all that shouldn't matter. You can't let them outwork you.
Trimboli, a tough shot with 6 seconds left on the shot clock. Right now, Albany dominating at both ends. Wilson launches, can't connect. An offensive rebound kept alive in the corner. And stepping out of bounds, trying to save it, was Connolly, so it will go over to Vermont.
And Bob, talking to Mike Lonergan before the game, he said, you know, we really don't have that guy who can go out there and get us 20 points. If we need a shot, if the shot clock is running down, we don't have a guy who can really beat you off the dribble. We have to really rely on guys setting good screens, passing and cutting, and so far we haven't seen much of that in this game.
There have been no easy shots so far for Vermont. Although Mike Lonergan said he felt fairly confident that they would be able to create some open looks from behind the three-point line, but there's your center putting it on the deck and turning it over. Six minutes gone by in the America East Championship game with an NCAA berth on the line. It has been all Albany so far. The ball on the deck, saved by Wilson. 15 seconds on the shot clock.
And that's the first time we saw Vermont and Mike Trimboli really getting up into the offensive players of Albany. So hopefully that'll be something that can help spark them, even though they didn't come up with the turnover, called for a foul, but hopefully that will get them going. And this is what you need. Again, it doesn't matter strength, it doesn't matter size. Effort is the thing that I look for when you're overmatched. And right there, that, to me, that's a positive thing for Mike Lonergan and Vermont.
Ciplicki picked up the foul. That's his second. So Kyle Ciplicki heads to the bench as now Chad Polovich is in for Vermont. So the two guard, one of the captains for the Catamounts, on the bench for two personals. And Lucius Jordan glides in for the easy two. And Vermont wants a timeout, trailing by 14. Jordan now has 7. He leads all scorers, and it's all Albany early on.
Well, who they come back against? Bingham? Was it Binghamton? Is that the game?
Yeah, I got that here. Albany on top by 14, and things coming right now very easy for the Great Danes, Donnie.
Yeah, and if you're Vermont, you got to really buckle down and pay attention to detail. This should just not happen. That's an easy matchup right there for Lucius Jordan on the bigger Chris Holm, and that's when the Vermont defense has to help out. Again, size, forget strength. It's just basic basketball and the basic basketball principles, which right now Vermont, I think they're getting so caught up in the fact that they're on the road and this is a pretty loud building. They're getting caught up in that, and they need to just focus on trying to take care of the small details.
Coming up short with the wing three was Ryan Schneider. Wilson spins, hangs, has his shot blocked and taken away. What a play by Polovich.
And this is the problem for Vermont. Who's going to give you a bucket? Where are you going to get your scoring and your points from?
Well, Tromboli was 8th best in America East, averaging 14 points per game. He's their leading scorer at the point guard spot. But he is being gloved down by Wilson early on. Banking one home is Chris Holm. The second time he has gone blast from left of the lane.
Well, you can see Albany respects him. They've double-teamed him twice, and he scored twice. So I like that look for Vermont. You got to get that ball inside. The more Albany collapses on him, the better opportunity you have for wide open shots for your perimeter guys.
Levi Levine can't hit. The rebound cleared by Schneider, and here's Tromboli. Once again in the post, it's Holm, and he's held by Jimmy Covington. Vermont getting it done right now on both ends, trying to come back.
Yeah, this is what anything right now. I'm sure Mike Lonergan saying anything we can get a positive on each end of the floor we'll take. Great block there on one end, and then the other end, Chris Holm. I love this shot. I love the idea that they're going inside to him. Again, you got to find some type of identity in this game. You're down early. Obviously, Albany's playing with more confidence. What are you going to do if you're Vermont to get yourselves going?
3 substitutions in the game for Albany, as they have brought back Zellner along with Lucius Jordan. Lillis back in the game as well. In the post, double team down low and trying to escape Tim McCrory, and now it's Tromboli. He's shut down. McCrory double teamed again. This time goes baseline, and he works his way to the line. Vermont trying to claw their way back into the America East Championship game. Back in a moment. 5 points per game, but again, Mike Lonergan told us he thought points would be hard to come by today.
Yeah, and I don't want to sound like Coach Brennan called me and said, you know, take it easy on my guys, but, you know, in the last couple of minutes, Vermont has calmed down a little bit. They've gotten more into the rhythm of their offense. Not, you know, less turnovers. They return the ball over early. I think they've settled in a little bit. The jitters are out, and you can see them making really an effort to go inside. And if Albany collapses again, it's going to open up that perimeter game for you.
McCrory creeps home the first free throw, and isn't it right now, from a coaching standpoint, just about setting those 4-minute goals, try to win each 4 minutes by 2, 3, 4 points, and all of a sudden then at halftime, you're within 3 or 4, and it's a game again.
Well, Mike Lonergan said before the game, I just want to try to get to that first TV timeout with my guys in good shape. Obviously today that didn't happen, but now you're here, and you have to figure, okay, when's the next timeout coming? What kind of foul trouble am I in, and how are my guys really playing? So all those things come into play, and it's almost like a chess match with you and your players when you're in a championship game.
Lucius Jordan with his first miss. Vermont with a chance to cut the lead back to single digits. The Catamounts do get it done at the defensive end. They're the #1 team in America East in field goal percentage against. And from downtown, they miss an open 3. As Ryan Schneider, again from that same corner, came up short. Those are the shots that Lonergan told us he needed his team to make today.
Yeah, you have to make those opportunities when you're wide open and there's not a hand in your face. Those are must-makes.
Lillis double team and a foul call a long way from the basket. Between these two teams this past year, in spite of the fact that one team was the top seed and the other team turned out to be the 6th seed in Vermont, they split the season series. Albany went into Vermont and lost by 12. Trimboli had a huge game, and you could see Jamar Wilson had 2 big games, and Albany served back Vermont a loss later on in the season here at the Rack.
Well, it's interesting because in this conference, home court advantage is so important, and we're getting a feel today, and obviously it's a championship game, but a lot of people here said this is how it's been all season long for this Albany team. The fouling has been wonderful because they knew they were doing something very special.
Chris Holm with a steal off of the alley-oop attempt. Now it's Sitlicki, high off the glass, no good, but the tip back by McCrory.
Bob, you can just see the confidence Vermont has now. They've settled down. They feel that they can play with Albany. They made a couple shots.
Wilson left wide open, and Brent Wilson, who is the leading three-point shooter this year for Albany. That's a defensive breakdown, isn't it?
It really is. Guys looking around at each other, and the one misconception players have at this level is, that's not my man, I'm not going to guard him. But in a game like this, you have to really get your teammates back. If someone's open, you got to run to them. The closest guy's got to guard someone.
Holm misses everything, and the shortest man on the court, John Yachty, comes away with the rebound. Hands it off to Jordan, skies in and misses. A dodged bullet for the Catamounts. Schneider again for 3. Again he comes up short. 3 times from the same spot on the court, and all 3 times off the front rim. Yachty to Jordan, back to Yachty.
And that right there is just all-out hustle for Albany. They had 5 guys in the paint by the time that ball went through the basket, and Vermont only had 2 guys across half court.
A moment ago, the Catamounts had clawed it back to single digits, and very quickly it has been pushed back to a 13-point lead. Fight for the loose ball between McCrory and Zellner. It's a held ball, and the possession arrow belongs to Albany.
And this is what you talk about, Bob, when you talk about effort. Great ball movement, sharing the ball. But look at this, 5 yellow jerseys in the paint, and only 2 more Vermont players across half court. Just cannot happen if you're a Vermont team that really is undersized and really under-muscled.
A 13-point lead for Albany in the America East Championship game, part of Championship Week, presented by 7-Up. Bob Wischusen and Donnie Marshall here at the Rack at UAlbany. Vermont in their road green, Albany in the home gold and purple. And right now the Great Danes with a 13-point lead. An amazing turnaround for this program as Wilson goes high off the glass and misses. But this is a program that had never been above 500 in Division I before this year, and they win the America East regular season title. They have a chance now to win the American East postseason title and head to their first ever NCAA tournament.
First time this school in Division I, and especially in this conference, has won 20 games. First time they've won 9 games at home, 8 on the road. I mean, there's so many firsts for Albany, and again, it's just a magical season. And I got to tell you, Bob, when there's magic at the beginning of the season, in the middle, and now in your conference tournament, usually that magic keeps going and takes you into the NCAA tournament. We got a lot of game here to play, but it's just a story of how magical this season has been for Albany.
Ciplicki at the line. Knocks down the first and gets the roll on the second. And Kyle Ciplicki, who comes from a huge Vermont hoops family. His uncle Bernie played at UVM. His father played at St. Lawrence. His uncle Keith played at William and Mary, and then coached the women's team at UVM. He's at Syracuse now. His grandfather, Bernie, was a top high school coach in Vermont. So there are deep basketball bloodlines for the Ciplicki family in Vermont. And now a chance for a three-point play again for the America East Player of the Year, Jamar Wilson.
Gives you an idea how special Jamar Wilson is, moving without the basketball. He sees he's got a bigger, slower man on him, and nice little jump step under control. You love that with players. That two-footed jump stop, and then you can do anything. You can step in, you can fade away, but you got to finish, and he's a great guy when it comes to finishing in the paint.
His second old-fashioned three-point play here in the first half. Wilson now has 6, and Albany with a 14-point lead inside of 8 minutes to go in the opening half.
You know, I know Mike Lonergan said we're going to have to score in the 60s, 70s, but, you know, I don't think it would be a bad idea if they used some more of that clock up and tried to slow the game down just a touch.
Trimboli misses, but that will help as Martin Klemesh with an offensive rebound and a putback. The Catamounts are now 0 for 4 from behind the arc.
Yeah, Martin Klemesh, we talked about earlier, he's a lone starter from last year's team, and he comes from some pretty good bloodlines. Talking about Kyle Ciplicki, his grandmother, father, mother, and sister all played in the Olympics. And as you know, Bob, he's from the Czech Republic, so he's got some pretty good basketball blood in his lines.
Ciplicki held by Yachty. Yachty didn't like the call, but Ciplicki will head to the line when we come back. It's a 12-point lead for the top seed Albany over the 6th game at the rack, taking on Vermont. The Great Danes, or as they are affectionately known, the Scooby-Doos. And the Vermont fans, and there are plenty of them that have made the trip down to cheer on their Catamounts, have seen Vermont really struggle here in the first half as Ciplicki steps to the line and knocks down the first. And it's such a young team. This is a point that we were talking about before the game. They are the youngest Division I basketball team. They have no seniors, and they have 12 sophomores and freshmen on their roster.
Yeah, and I think if you talk to Mike Lonergan and tell him, you know what, next year and the year after, you guys are going to be great, he's thinking about right now. And really, they got to a point this season that no one expected them to get to after all you lose at Vermont. And he's done a great job, but the future is very bright for this Vermont team.
From the wing, Jason Siggers knocks one down off the feed from Jamar Wilson. And just when Vermont claws it back to a 10-point lead, it stretches to 13. Josh Duell from downtown can't hit and does not get the roll as it bounces out of bounds over the backboard. But here to illustrate the job that Mike Lonergan has done this year, especially late, it's all young players, the least experienced roster in the nation.
Yeah, that's pretty, you know, you look at all those 7 freshmen. I came into a class at UConn. We had 8 freshmen. I tell you, I'm surprised Mike Lonergan still has as much hair on his head as he does, because it can wear on you. But as fun as it is, and Roy Williams will tell you it's exciting because you're coaching young players down in North Carolina, it can really wear on coaches.
Jamar Wilson now has 8 as he broke Josh Duell down off the dribble. A mismatch, and Wilson took advantage. 15-point lead for the Great Danes. Going to the basket, now with a chance for a 3-point play, is Mike Trimboli, the America East Rookie of the Year. So the freshman trying to get Vermont back in it.
And again, I got to get my young fella in here, get him a highlight out of Norwalk, Connecticut. Mike Trimboli, he deserves it, not just because we live in the same state, but he's a tough player. He's 6'1". They say 180. He's probably closer to 170, but really just a tough kid. The look you see on his face there is the same as if he misses a shot or if he makes it, and you love him to be on that even keel, especially if you're Lonergan and he's your point guard.
As much as Albany has dominated here in the first half, whenever the lead has gotten up to double digits, it seems as if Vermont is able to make one play to keep the game within contact, and down by 12 with 5:50 remaining in the first half.
Well, they need to do a better job defensively, like right there. Great job. And they really have done a good job on the glass, allowing Albany to only one shot at a time, but at times that they've only needed one shot to get a bucket.
Trimboli with the kick out. So Nicky thought about a three, and it's a reset. Plenty of time on the shot clock. Underneath, laying it home, Chris Home, but he is ruled to have hooked with the arm, an offensive foul call.
Yeah, and I thought he was going to get away with that, but right in front of the official, this is a great shot right here, and this is exactly what the official saw. And that's not a foul. If you keep that ball in both hands and you clear through, that's not a foul. But as soon as you take that right hand off the basketball and put it around that defender, easy call for the official.
"17 seconds on the shot clock. Jamar Wilson has 8. He leads Albany, and with 10 to shoot, it's knocked away on the baseline. 9 seconds on the shot clock for the Great Danes.
And you can see Vermont trying to switch a lot, switch out on the ball handler. Doesn't seem to be working thus far. I think if they stick with that and Albany continues to hurt them, they're going to have to get back into a zone and try to be more active that way. But those plays right there, Bob, they just cannot happen. You have to take care of your glass.
How much of a killer was that at one end for Vermont? But Rob Siska comes back at the other and hits a three. He's an all-state golfer in high school. So not only can he play Division I basketball, but he can also take your jingle on the golf course if necessary. Is inside Levine, hangs and hits. 13-point advantage for Albany.
And you really don't hear a lot about Levi Levine. He gets overlooked because of Lucius Jordan and Jamar Wilson, but he's one of those guys that has that inside-out, really a tough matchup, and he rebounds very well for his size at 6'5".
Trimboli with an ill-advised shot, just about missed everything. And now Wilson palmed the basketball. Well, a reminder, the ACC tournament semifinals will continue. Championship week presented by 7-Up in high gear this afternoon on ESPN. At 1:30 Eastern, number 3 Duke meets Wake Forest. And then a great matchup. Number 11 Boston College and number 10 North Carolina. Games are subject to blackout in ACC areas as championship week continues.
Tony, I'm excited to see that Boston College North Carolina game. Again, Roy Williams has a young team down there, but they're playing great. And Boston College, what a transition from the Big East Conference to go down there and now to try to play to get into the ACC final. And I never thought I'd say I would be rooting for Boston College, but I will be in that game.
Siska penetrates. He now has 5. And speaking as a Golden Eagle alum, I appreciate your support. Please don't take it personally that I was oh so happy to see your team go down the other day. Well, in my years at Boston College, boy, we just didn't like you at all. Not even a little bit. A takeaway by Trimboli, a foul called. 35-24, Albany on top with 3:18 to go. We'll head back to our studios in a moment. All right, Trey and Coach, thanks very much. Vermont trailing Albany 35-24. But, Donnie, we were just talking about it during the break. For Vermont, as badly as things have gone for them at times here in the first half, trailing by 11 with 3 minutes and 18 seconds to go. You're now going to send Mike Trimboli to the line. And really, the Catamounts have a chance to make this a manageable deficit at halftime in a first half that Albany had a chance to run away with things.
Well, I think if this game started about 10 minutes later, this would be a tied ball game right now. But Albany came out at the tip and really enforced how they want to play and really forced their will on Vermont. And there you see a miss by Mike Trimboli. He shoots 84%. So again, you see a little bit of the nerves, and that's how it started for Vermont. And now they finally, it looks like they're trying to get themselves back into the game at both ends of the floor.
Well, 1 for 7 from behind the arc is not going to help. As with 3 minutes to go in the half, now Wilson takes his man down to the post. Seven seconds to shoot for Jamar Wilson. Fades away. Oh, knocks it down. Inside of 5 seconds on the shot clock.
And that's how special he is. Very athletic, knows how to create space off the dribble. And Vermont, during the season, known not as a spectacular defensive team, but their defensive principles were solid because they stayed between their man and the basket. And there, when you're playing against a guy like Wilson, he just elevates over you.
Just about a takeaway. Trimboli saves it. They set up Siska. 4 seconds on the shot clock, and Trimboli launches. Siska the offensive rebound. Can't get it to go. Home the inside. He banks it up, and that won't go.
Wow, he got bumped a couple of times there. Officials letting him play inside. And that was a call Vermont could have used.
Second chances for the Catamounts, as right now they are shooting 32% here in the first half. Jordan pulls up, gets his own miss, sticks it back home. So Albany at this point shooting just shy of 60% from the field, and Vermont shooting 32% as Trimboli gets himself to the line.
I'm glad Mike Trimboli continues to push the ball down the throat. And there is no backing down on this kid. He's tough, but on the other end, just watch this. The space created not just up, but backwards. And here's a great angle, fading back. And again, I'm a big fan of that fadeaway. And maybe because I've played against one of the best players to ever fade away in the game, Michael Jordan was one of the best at getting into a shot and falling back and fading away. And a lot of coaches out there probably say no fadeaways, no fadeaways. My high school coach said the same thing. But I remember Michael Jordan saying, if your shoulders are square and you get enough lift on the ball, it's okay. So I think if Michael Jordan says it, then I think it's okay.
Well, it becomes an unblockable shot, doesn't it?
It really does. And you know, guys who are the size of Jamar Wilson at 6'1" need every advantage they can to create that space.
And now Wilson fouled underneath by Siska. That's the 7th team foul against Vermont. So Siska's foul puts Wilson at the line. The 3rd best free throw shooter in America East this year, the player of the year. As he was in the top 5 in many different categories, 84% for the season. And a chance to stretch the lead to 15.
We saw Trimboli, who's also an 84% free throw shooter, miss at the other end, but it's a little different when you are shooting in front of your home crowd versus a sea of purple and gold behind the basket when you're the visiting team.
Well, what an amazing home crowd this is as well for Albany. Again, it was something that, in talking to Will Brown, the Albany head coach, he said that, and he hasn't been here for that long, he said that the locals around here have told him that this is the biggest on-campus sporting event in the history of this area. As Jamar Wilson will sit down and get a handshake from his coach. And that man right there, that young man, is basically being credited for almost being the founding father now of a Division I basketball program, as he has come in and laid the foundation for a steady stream of success that now has led Albany to the doorstep of the NCAA tournament. Just about a takeaway from Lillis. Can't run it down.
And I got to tell you, Lillis has really been a spark plug defensively. I mean, he's had his hand, he's gotten tips, he's had his hands in passing lanes, really done a good job, and he's hurting pretty good. Ran into our table over here,
and Donnie Marshall did nothing to soften the blow.
I got out of the way.
Ryan Lillis, yes.
I moved out of the way, but look at this. That's just great hustle right there, and he might have hit his head on the table here, but you can see the energy that he brings to the game. And again, another guy who really is, you know, said, hey, I'm trying to get to the NCAA tournament. And I got to tell you, it's a special day when you see that on Selection Sunday and your team is on that board.
8 seconds on the shot clock for the Catamounts. 50 seconds to go here in the first half. Down to 3 on the shot clock. Trimboli fades away. And a timeout called by Albany. Just under 41 seconds to go here in the first half. A 15-point lead for the Great Danes.
Out of whack, but it's a whole nother beast when you're not paying attention to detail. No defensive rotation. Offensively, you're not running your sets, and I think he's going to go in more at halftime and say, hey, we got to run our stuff. We have to defend as a team, more so than saying stop being scared.
Wilson penetrates. 5 seconds on the shot clock, a turnover. 12 seconds to go in the first half. A chance for the Catamounts to launch the final shot. And a blocking foul call. That will put Josh Duell on the line. Levi Levine picks up his first, the 19th foul against Albany in the first half.
And really, I don't mind the take, but especially when you're a smaller guy versus a big guy, 19 feet from the basket, but you got to square up a little bit better than that if you're Levine and get your feet set. That's an easy call out there for the officials when you're moving and sliding.
The front end missed. 4 seconds to go in the half. Here's Wilson. He has time. Launches. Got it! At the buzzer. A dagger by Jamar Wilson. He had 14 points in the first half. And it's a 44-26 lead at the break for Albany.
And a couple of guys that were in our star watch. Mike Trimboli not really living up. Jamar Wilson, oh. Look how calm he comes down, and again, that little hesitation, step back, and calmly runs off the floor. He understands who he is, who his team is, and what this win will mean for them.
It's halftime in Albany. Now we head back to the studio. The 7-Up halftime report with Trey Wingo and the coach.
All right, Bob and Donnie, thanks very much. 7-Up halftime report comes to us from our college basketball studios. You know, deja video, last 3 years running, the man sitting to my left, Tom Brennan, a very, very happy man when the conference tournament was over in the America East. 3 straight years, Tom Brennan and the Catamounts cutting down the nets. Let's just say if we're going to make it a 4-peat, Tom, there's some work to do for Vermont. Thoughts on what we saw in the first half of this game?
Well, you have to tip your hat to Albany. They played great. Jamar Wilson, a great player, had 17 points. And, you know, you do this business long enough, you know some days you're pigeons and some days you're statues. So we got to come back 2 by 2 slowly. I didn't think Vermont would get shook, but we obviously did. And the momentum that Albany had, getting out of the gate with a great crowd. And, again, knowing that this is their day, their chance to go to the big dance. They're playing great. We have to tip our hat to them.
First time for the Great Danes, chance to get in as a Division I school. And the difference in this first half, really, you're looking for that one player for Vermont, Tom, to pick up and carry the scoring load. They don't have it, and Jamar Wilson is clearly that guy for Albany.
That's for sure. And at 60% for Albany and 30% for Vermont, that makes it different. Vermont a little sloppy on defense, not making the one-on-ones, just little things like that. In a championship game, you got to play like a championship team.
We'll see if Vermont can come back and be a championship team for the 4th straight year in the second half. We'll get to that a little bit later. First, let's check in on other action, Conference USA action for you. First, we'll start with Allen Ray, though. Allen Ray, good news.
You got to step up, and I think Coach Brennan said it best. You know, if you want to be a championship team, you have to play like a champion, or at least think like one. And obviously, these kids are very young from Vermont, but you got to give more effort in this second half.
The numbers certainly dour for Vermont, and they get worse when you consider that you're playing the 1 seed, and this is the largest halftime lead they've had all season at 18 points. Their previous high, they led Brown by 16 points back in December, and they are 18-0 when leading at halftime, as Chris Holm at least gets Vermont off to a good start here in the second half. But if Albany has a halftime lead so far this season, they have not been beaten.
Yeah, and the fact that they're shooting 58% hurts you too if you're Vermont. And the confidence level that Albany has right now is, you know, they're not thinking about this game being over, but they're thinking about once we beat this team in Vermont, we're going to the big show.
Zellner's shot was held inside. A jump ball called. Albany maintains possession. But a solid possession at one end, getting Holm freed up for a basket for Vermont, and then Holm in on the rejection at the other end. What a start to the game for Jamar Wilson. He had 17 points and 4 rebounds in the first half.
Got to tell you, he didn't miss a three. He didn't miss a free throw. I mean, he's solid.
Jordan couldn't get the roll. McIntosh has the rebound. Pulling up for three, coming up short, Saplicki. 1 for 9 now from three-point land for the Catamounts. Jordan spinning, and he will go to the line. And let's look back at the first half that Jamar Wilson put together.
Sorry, Bob. Yeah, you talk about how good Wilson is, not just in transition, great body control, but off the dribble, fading away and moving so well without the ball. And I just, that shot right there, again, for a guy 6'1", you have to find ways to create space, and he really does a wonderful job of doing that.
Well, he has certainly lived up to the advanced billing of being the America East Player of the Year this afternoon. He was the America East Rookie of the Year when he first arrived in Albany back in 2003. Then he missed all of the 2003-2004 season with a fracture of the right patella. Came back off of a season-ending injury last year to average 17 points per game.
And one guy we talked about a little bit in the open is Kyle Saplicki, and he gave Vermont absolutely nothing in that first half. And he's going to really have to step up if this Vermont team has a chance. But plays like that, and this kid, Jamar Wilson, very special, Bob.
The ball fake and the deuce. He now has 19 after once again it was an open three missed by Vermont at one end that turned into a transition bucket the other way for Albany. Vermont now 1 for 10 from behind the arc. They normally shoot 34% per game from three-point land. Once again, trying and missing is Trimboli. And a rebound inside for the tallest player in Albany history, Zellner. Count the bucket for Lucius Jordan, and a timeout called by the Catamounts. It has been all Albany this afternoon. They are pouring it on. 17:49 to go, and Albany that close to going to the tournament.
Through the Fire premieres tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern.
Bob, we talk about what makes a championship team, the ability not just to play in the half court, but Albany, the ability to finish in transition and to take what the defense has gotten you. And Albany does a wonderful job of creating their offense with their defense today.
It's been a celebration from the start for all of the fans that have packed the rack here at UAlbany, especially the kids. We showed you when we first came on the air the fact that they have been camped out since Thursday night waiting for tickets for this afternoon's game. The tickets would normally be $10 a piece for the Albany students, which seems reasonable enough, but then they got 9 different area companies to come in and subsidize the tickets, making the tickets for the students all free. So they gave out over 1,000 tickets to the students here at UAlbany this morning. Not only did they get a free ticket, but they got a free t-shirt paid for by local businesses. And they have been in their seats since 2 hours before game time after camping out for about 33 hours to get the seats as Timothy McCrory converts inside and cuts the lead to 20.
And they haven't sat down, and rightfully so. Their team hasn't given them anything to sit down about. I mean, this has been all purple and gold all day long so far.
Wilson is hit. And let's show you the scene, what was just outside the rack here. It's 6:15 this morning. That was when they finally opened the doors. Not only were the kids camped out to get these tickets since Thursday night, but at 6:15, 6:30 this morning, the basketball team themselves and the head coach, Will Brown, went out and passed out coffee and donuts, thanked the kids for all their support all season. As Albany, which was a below 500 Division I program every year before this season, and they've only been Division I for 6 previous seasons. Now they win the America East regular season title for the first time. They're the #1 seed on the verge of potentially winning the championship game for the first time, and for the first time ever, of course, going to the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, and when you're talking about an opportunity to do something you've never done before, it's not that much fun when you just take your own team. You got to take not just your team, but the students and the entire area, the entire state if you can. And obviously New York is a very large state, but at least if nothing less, you got to take the whole city of Albany and everyone in it with you.
McCrory has been active inside, forces one up, saves his own miss, and a chance for Vermont to reset. Trying desperately to get back in the game, and this is what they have not had any of this afternoon. 3-point buckets, but Josh Dool hits their second on the afternoon. Vermont now 2 for 12 from behind the arc. Wilson with a jump stop. And here come the Catamounts.
And Wilson right now feeling, hey, we're extending this lead. You know, really not like him to take those off-balance wild shots, and those are okay when you're up as much as they are, but you got to understand what got you to this lead, and a team like Vermont, if you let them sniff it, they're not going to go away.
Wilson with the left hand, score the bucket, and he will head to the line. Jamar Wilson with a chance for a 3-point play. Another dagger by the America East Player of the Year, as he will shoot free throws when we come back after we check in with Trey Wingo, and an update from our ESPN studios right after this. Trey, thanks very much. You mentioned it was all Memphis and all Sean Williams. Well, it has been all Albany and all Jamar Wilson as he completes the 3-point play.
Yeah, and you just see how special he is being able to finish with not just his right hand and jump shots and layups, but with his left hand in transition with great body control. And then you add to the fact that he has guys like Siggers and Brent Wilson and Lucius Jordan and Levi Levine, and he really has a great supporting cast that gives Jamar Wilson the ability to kind of go a little freelance at times.
Well, Albany even acquitted themselves well in the bracket busters. They lost by 3 at Virginia Commonwealth. The loss had broken an 8-game winning streak. They had a season-high 20 turnovers in that game as Wilson rims out a 3. Offensive rebound, though, from Siggers. He finds Jordan, and Jordan will head to the line. And championship week will continue. The Big 12 championship presented by Phillips 66. The semifinals, as we will go to Dallas right after we're done here in Albany. It's number 8 Texas and Texas A&M, and then number 18 Kansas taking on Nebraska. Again, games are subject to blackout in Big 12 markets, but it's championship week presented by 7-Up, and it continues right after we're done. Lucius Jordan last season was voted as a second-team selection in America East. He scored in double figures last year 24 times. This year, only 12 times in double figures, as he took a back seat to a certain extent as Jamar Wilson emerged. And today, he has joined Wilson with 15 points, complementing Jamar Wilson's 22. Saplicki misses inside, and the rebound pulled down by Zellner.
First time today we saw Saplicki really be assertive offensively, not looking for a shot there, going to the basket. I thought he might have got hit a little bit.
Zollner has it knocked away inside by Schneider. Saplicki couldn't save it, so with 20 seconds on the shot clock, it remains Albany basketball as Saplicki sits down.
And Bob, you can just see looking at, and we talked earlier about strength and being bigger, but you can just see how young this Vermont team is. Just look at their arms. Haven't quite developed yet. Not a lot of time in the weight room just yet. They're just new to NCAA basketball this year, but the difference, all the difference in the bodies of Albany and their mindset and the way that they carry themselves, you can just see it.
And it was a point that Will Brown, the head coach for Albany, made, and it was backed up to a certain extent by Mike Lonergan, that when you have played so many games against one another and have scouted each other so many times, you get to this point, you know each other well enough that really you need that go-to guy to step up and make plays. Well, obviously, Albany has it in the form of Jamar Wilson, but it's been a struggle all afternoon as finally Trimboli rims one home for Vermont to find that guy to step up and make those plays.
And Vermont, they'll find that guy. I mean, obviously, Trimboli, Rookie of the Year in the America East Conference. But again, he's not quite developed yet to be able to take over a game and go get you 20 when you need it.
Extra effort by Siggers kept it alive on the offensive glass. Here's Trimboli. Vermont desperate for some buckets. Pulling up, Schneider comes up short again. It seems every time he has shot the ball today, it's been off the front rim.
Yeah, we call it pulling the string a little bit. He gets his hand up there. He doesn't follow through. He pulls his hand back, almost like he's pulling a string. And you got to get those shots over the rim. And sometimes that's from tightness and nerves. And you can still see that his shot is coming up a little short.
He's now 0 for 4 from the field. Wilson got caught inside, somehow gets it up on the glass, and again, a chance for a three-point play for Jamar Wilson, who has been spectacular this afternoon. With the free throw, he would up his score for today to 25 points.
Bob, poise, and more poise. You think the defense has him cut off. He stops, he looks, he steps through, and the ability to finish. That's what you get from a guy who is the America East Player of the Year. And again, playing much bigger than 6'1", and 24 points on the day. He averages 17 on the season, but he is playing like he wants to get to that NCAA tournament.
Trimboli fouled on his way to the bucket. Jamar Wilson with 25 points on the afternoon, and he is 5 points away from Morris Teague and third place all time in the Great Dane scoring column. And he sits down to a thunderous ovation from the fans here at the rack. Stepping back, launching a three, rimming it out was Duell, and then having his shot rejected inside was Trimboli. Back comes Yachty, pulls up. And Duell finds the loose ball.
I think one thing to point out about that scoring list that we saw there is Jamar Wilson is a junior. And those are the numbers you see with a guy who's been here 4 years.
Martin Clemesh, who has had a very quiet afternoon, will now go to the line. And a big day of college basketball on the ESPN networks this afternoon on ESPN. Semifinal action in the ACC tournament. First, it's Duke surviving a scare from Miami yesterday. Today, they take on Wake Forest. Then number 11 Boston College and number 10 North Carolina. All part of Championship Week, presented by 7-Up. Clemesh only a 49% free throw shooter. He averages 12 points and 5.5 rebounds per game, and you can see he is well below those averages here in the title game. And he misses at the line. Keeping it alive, though, McIntosh. The officials confer, and it stays Vermont basketball.
And really, the shot doesn't look that bad, but once you miss some and you see what the percentages are and you overanalyze it, they call it paralysis by analysis, and you can see that's what Clemesh's problem is at 48% from that foul line.
Sneaking to the basket and reversing one home is Rob Siska. He has provided a spark off the bench for the Catamounts, as he now has 7. It's a 20-point advantage. Does Vermont have a run in them? Covington rejected inside by Siska.
You know, you've seen crazier things, but they have to have this three ball start falling for them.
There have been a few moments in the game, such as that last one, where it could have been a big momentum swing if they were able to knock down a shot. Very rarely have they been able to make that shot.
I mean, they keep chipping away. I mean, that's a great play right there, great move, but you got to get stops at the other end. And when you get a stop and a rebound, you must come down to this end and score.
Sigurds floats in, and the tip-up is good. Brent Wilson comes from the weak side and pushes the lead back over 20. Home banks one home. And the lead cut back to 20.
And at this point, Albany saying, you know what, we'll exchange baskets with you because we're looking over. We got just over 11.5 minutes to play. Keep exchanging. We're going to win this game.
Yachty thought about a three. Into traffic, stepping back Levine. Yachty will try a triple. Knocks it down.
I tell you, John Yachty off the bench has been that spark. Even though Albany had a solid lead, it's nice to see a guy come off the bench, and they say he's 5'9". That's on a great day, Bob.
With lifts.
That's right.
A steal on the far side by Wilson. Ruled to have been a kick. 9 minutes gone by in the second half, an afternoon that Albany has owned. And heading to their first ever NCAA tournament.
Bob, we talked about a couple of the problems for Vermont, and as Chris Holm makes a solid move there, and you said it, they will come down, they'll score, they'll get a stop or a rebound, set up for a three-pointer, and almost every time they've missed that three-pointer. And you know, they're getting into their stuff, but at this point, you got to think that they're going to try to get quicker baskets and not just settle for those three-point shots, because obviously they're not falling.
Well, what I'm about to say might sound somewhat ridiculous, but aren't there at times in games three-point shots that are worth more than 3 points? There are three-point shots that come in the flow of a run that really change the momentum and change the emotion of a game. And they've had 3 or 4 opportunities, it seems, to hit that type of a three today, and they've missed them all.
And the problem with that is if they were at home, those threes go down, and it really helps you. Those are the three-pointers we saw Albany hitting at the beginning of the game, really getting them going. And you're absolutely right. Excuse me. They do help you as far as emotions, because these fans got into it right off the bat.
Dominating in every category has been Albany, and certainly from behind the arc. Knocking down another one is John Yachty. He was the America East Rookie of the Year 2 years ago, but a torn labrum and surgery cost him all of last season. So he hasn't played in about 2 years, and off the bench he's averaging 7 points per game, and he's now hit 2 threes and as many trips.
Well, great recognition. 2 times defense's hands are down, and coaches always tell you their hands are down, you got to shoot it.
A rebound inside for Flemish, and he is fouled.
You like this from your guards. Recognition, hands down. I'm shooting it right over your head. And when you're hot, sometimes you shoot it to see if you still, we call that a heat check, and he's still hot.
And Albany has been hot all afternoon at the America East Championship game. It's Vermont and Albany here in Albany, New York. Championship week presented by 7-Up. I'm Bob Wischusen here with Donnie Marshall. Thanks for joining us as we kick off a great day of basketball on ESPN and ESPN2. Vermont in the green, Albany in the home gold, and the Catamounts, who with Taylor Coppenrath have been the mini dynasty for the past few years here in America East. They are now the youngest team in all of Division I college basketball. They have 12 freshmen and sophomores on their roster, so this is certainly a learning experience for them. They were the 6th seed in the America East Conference tournament. No one expected them to get to this game, but with upsets of Boston University and Binghamton, they moved on, knocking out the 2 and the 3 seed to get into a spot where today they just look overmatched.
Yeah, the fact that they're a smaller team, they're a younger team, and then you throw in there that they're shooting the ball at a very poor percentage, and Albany is just lights out today.
Yachty rises, fires, and comes up short. That foul inside.
That was the heat check right there, because it wasn't a great shot, but he was coming off the screen and said, you know what, I'm gonna see what this feels like. Unfortunately for him, he missed.
Well, if Albany is able to make it to the NCAA tournament, they would join Belmont out of the Atlantic Sun, making their first ever big dance appearance. But these are the teams that have already made it through. It seems like Penn is a perennial winner out of the Ivy, along with Princeton, and with 15 teams in, most recently Bucknell, who won the Patriot League Championship, a game that we called yesterday in Lewisburg. And number 16, it looks as if will be the Albany Great Danes, unless Vermont is able to pull off a miracle comeback as Trimboli steps to the line.
It feels like you and I called about 12 or 13 of those 15 games. It's just been game after game, and it's been exciting. I mean, this is that time of year, and you see so many different teams, and it's a great preview for guys like me and you, because now I'm sure if your phone hasn't been ringing, it will be. My phone's been ringing. Friends asking me, okay, I got the pool getting ready. Who's going to be in? Who's going where? Who's going to win? And I'm like, you know what? Can't help you. I just like to sit back and watch them play.
Well, this is another great example, and we had an opportunity in the Northeast Conference Championship game at Fairleigh Dickinson a few nights ago to experience it. Yesterday at Bucknell, today at Albany. You know, when the brackets come out on Monday and people pick up their paper and get their sheet, and these are the teams that most of the country is going to say, well, I don't really know much about Albany. Is this a team that even has a chance, or are they one of those teams that's going to lose by 40 in the first round? And who knows? And a lot of it just depends on how well they play. And if they play like they're playing today, they're certainly going to be competitive. But we get a feel in some of these areas for what this would mean to these schools and to these communities. And again, this was described by some of the locals here in Albany as the biggest on-campus sporting event in the history of this city. And the kids have camped out for 40 hours before the game. And they were here 2.5 hours filing in, chanting and singing the fight song. And it's just, this is a scene that gets played out in some of these smaller conference campuses around the country that, you know, those of us from the big cities don't really appreciate.
Right, and you know what happens is, I know when I was at UConn, you know, we'd just be with the team at coach's house and seeing who we're going to play, where we're going to play. And in most cases, in my situation, we were a 1 and no worse than a 2 seed. But for these schools like this gym will probably be filled with a big screen coming down, and it will be full, more full than what you see here today, because they know that they're doing something that they've never done before.
Wilson penetrates with 10 to shoot. His shot partially blocked. It falls to Levine. He misses everything. Back to Vermont. And a blocking foul called on the baseline on Levine. Now the two officials disagree. Is it a block or is it a charge? One official had it going one way. The other had it going as a defensive foul. You be the judge.
You know what? And these are tough. When he starts to take off, yeah, that, to me, that's a block. He's still moving in as the player has forward progress to the basket. You got to have your feet set. I know sometimes on the ball, guarding the ball, as long as you have position, you don't necessarily have to have your feet set. You got to be moving, but
both officials decided that they were equally emphatic about their opinions because they've called a double personal foul. So Vermont will maintain possession, but both players pick up the personal foul.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. You take it out on the kids.
Siplicki for three. Can't get it to go. What a frustrating afternoon it has been for Vermont. They are now 3 for 17 from three-point land as Levine smooth to the goal for 2 more for Albany.
You know, Bob, I know this game is now a blowout, but in situations like that, we saw the officials give a foul to each player. That's where I think the rule of a jump ball, you take it to half court, you throw it up, that's where that rule should come into play, because, again, in this situation, it doesn't matter, but there are games where that could matter, and I think we got to do a better job with the officials. They can throw the ball up. These kids are athletic enough to go get that ball.
Again, that sounds like the big man in you. A little bit bitter that every now and then you'd get tied up with a guard and somehow the possession arrow would determine where the ball went, rather than you being able to go out there and jump over Muggsy Bogues or someone and steal the tip.
It's progression. We have to get to a point where, again, the refs have to keep up with the game, but they also have to keep up with the ability of these players that you see in the game nowadays.
Josh Duell has struggled today, averages 7 points per game. He now has 6. Only 1 of 3 from the field, and all 3 of his shots have come from three-point land. Trimboli sits down as Klemesh comes back on. And with 8 minutes to go, it looks as if this is going to be a Vermont celebration for the next 8 minutes as they'll count down the time. And it looks as if the Great Danes are going dancing for the first time in school history.
Yeah, Albany will have a long time to celebrate in this game with their fans. And they're not done yet.
The miss by Jordan. Somehow the ball falls to Jamar Wilson, and he resets. Levine kicks one out 10 seconds to shoot. Jamar Wilson steps one back out again for a three, and knocking it down is Lucius Jordan. It has gone that way all afternoon for Albany.
Well, anyone around the country watching this game, you're not going to have to worry or have to guess if Albany can play. They can play. They can play the full court game up tempo, or they can take time off the clock and knock down three-pointers.
They are 9 for 15 from three-point land. Vermont 3 for 17 from behind the arc.
And again, the patience that they show, because they have so much confidence in one another, and the ability for guys to dribble, drive, penetrate, and have that confidence like Lucius Jordan to knock down that three with time running down. Makes Albany a pretty special team.
And Albany now with a 27-point lead.
And I got to tell you, Bob, this is the earliest I've heard a crowd singing "Na Na 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 Goodbye" with 7 minutes to play. And you know, let's not forget. I'm sorry, Bob. Let's not forget the fact that Vermont is a very, very young team, and don't be surprised if you see them back here next year.
A long two, missed by Siska. And the rebound falls to Brent Wilson. Again, Texas A&M and Texas at 2 Eastern time. Immediately after we're done, championship week presented by 7-Up will continue in the Big 12. Seconds on the shot clock. Wilson breaks them down off the dribble. Can't hit the floater. Lamesh fights away the rebound. Is there a learning experience that a young Vermont team will take out of a game like this?
Oh, no question. I mean, they're going to keep this. They're going to keep this loss, and they're going to remember how much they lost by. And they're going to look at tape, and Mike Lonergan and his staff are going to look at tape and show these guys next year, because you don't want to feel this feeling ever again. And again, in all fairness to this Vermont team, they're very young. And again, Mike Lonergan has done a wonderful, wonderful job getting to this point this season.
Jordan misses everything on the fadeaway. 5.5 minutes remaining in the America East Championship game. And Albany looking very impressive on the way to their first ever NCAA tournament, as Sidlicki is able to knock one down. A 24-point lead with 5:15 to play. Only the 4th three-pointer and 18 tries this afternoon for Vermont. A loose ball taken away by the Catamounts. Lamesh can't hit, but he will go to the line. And certainly give Vermont some credit. No quit in the young Catamounts, but they trail in a big way.
7-Up Plus with calcium. With a
the Vermont faithful made the trip down to watch their team play as a 6th seed in the championship game here in America East, but it has been a long afternoon for the Vermont faithful, as they have seen their team bomb away from three-point lands and not hit much. Only 4 of 18 as Lamesh steps to the line and cannot connect once again. A 24-point lead for the Great Danes.
You got to be able to hit your free throws. I got to talk to Coach Lonergan after this game and say, I got a free throw, a shooting coach that I can let you. In all seriousness, I mean, I think kids don't spend enough time at the foul line, and you know, games are really decided there. And if you can't get yourself going on the foul line, it's really hard to get yourself going behind three-point line. And they've struggled from all over the floor shooting the ball today.
Timeout called by Albany. And the head coach, certainly Will Brown, deserves plenty of credit in his 5th season for getting Albany to the point that they are headed to the NCAA tournament. But Doc Sowers, among college basketball's all-time winningest coaches. You can see him there in the checked golf shirt. His teams made 11 NCAA Division III appearances. They got to the Elite 8 in 1994. 9 ECAC tournament titles as well. 702 victories in 41 seasons. And he was honored at halftime with a plaque and appreciation for all of the years he spent here at SUNY Albany, now known as the University at Albany, and well deserved. That's a long time and a lot of bricks laid in the foundation by one man.
Well, 700 wins, and you're not a Division I school, and you know, you're not getting players that are going to go to the NBA, and you know, not a lot of high quality guys that everyone's touting, and McDonald's All-Americans and things like that. So the job that he's done over that time is pretty spectacular.
A reminder coming up right after we're done, the Big 12 Championship presented by Phillips 66. Number 8 Texas and Texas A&M on deck. And then right after that at 4 Eastern, it will be Nebraska and Kansas as we begin a great day of college basketball here on ESPN2. We will take you down to Dallas right after we're done here in Albany. And the Danes take a 30-second timeout, and the celebration will certainly be continuing here at the Rack in Albany. And not only do we have on ESPN2 the Big 12 Championship for you, but today on ESPN Championship Week presented by 7-Up, we'll bring you the ACC semifinals. J.J. Redick and Duke taking on Wake Forest. And then number 10 North Carolina and number 11 Boston College. A 1:30 Eastern tip for Duke and Wake Forest. And then right after that, BC and North Carolina. We could have a Duke-Carolina rematch in the ACC title game.
Well, like you, I'm rooting for Boston College, just because they were a former Big East team and live in the Connecticut area. I'm a big fan of Craig Smith, and Coach Skinner's done a wonderful job in that transition to the ACC. And
he's done an amazing job just bringing the talent that he has to that school in the first place.
Jared Dudley might be one of my favorite players in the last 10 years in college basketball because of his intensity and the way he plays.
Josh Duell will go to the line with a chance for the old-fashioned three-point play. And again, Texas A&M and Texas will be getting underway at 2:07. You will not miss a moment of that game as the Big 12 Championship semifinals brought to you by Phillips 66 right after we're done here in Albany. 4 minutes to go.
And I'm interested to see how long Will Brown keeps Jamar Wilson in this game. He really, you know, he doesn't have to rest. They're going to get some days off before they play again, but
Brown bumped by Siplicki. The coronation for Albany when we return. Standing room only here at the Rack at UAlbany, as the Great Danes are now 3 minutes and 45 seconds away from having the greatest celebration in the history of this school, as they are about to go to the NCAA tournament for the first time ever. And again, this is only the first Division I season where Albany has ever even been above 500. This is the 7th year that they've even had a Division I program. So really, the ramifications of what they have done with their basketball program filtering through the entire school. They've just never had a sporting event quite like this on their campus.
Yeah, truly a magical season for Albany, and you know, they're going to be so jacked up sitting there tomorrow night with all their fans waiting to see where they're going to be playing in the NCAA tournament. I tell you what, they wouldn't care if they were playing in Poland at this point. They're just happy to be going to the NCAA tournament.
Right after we're done, we head down to Dallas. The Big 12 Championship semifinals await Texas A&M and number 8 Texas. The Aggies and the Longhorns first, and then it's the Jayhawks and the Huskers. Kansas and Nebraska slightly after 4 p.m. Eastern. And a foul called out on the perimeter. You have to wonder why with 3 minutes and 11 seconds to go. And a 21-point lead for Albany.
Brian Lillis going to the line. We saw him earlier in the game diving headfirst into our table, and Brian Lillis and Brent Wilson, their parents drove together 17 hours from Iowa to watch this game, both of them being from Iowa. Got in last night at 11:30, so they're here. And They're going to be involved in the celebration, too, after this game in about 3 minutes.
And if it's up to the officials, it might be a long 3 minutes. Another bump on the perimeter as Levine called for the foul. But Wilson and Lillis, both sophomores, as you said, both from Iowa, both played together on the same AAU team in Iowa and were best friends growing up. So really was almost like when you recruit twins. They were a package deal, and where one was going to go, the other was going to follow. As Lillis is in the game wearing 21, right in the middle of your screen, and he's now going to head to the bench as Brent Wilson, his best friend, will come on for him. John Yachty checks back in as well as Lillis sits down along with Zollner.
Not a bad deal. Your parents can carpool, even though it's 17 hours to come watch you play, but at least they have some company on the long trip. And talked to people earlier before the game, and they said their parents would drive, see the game, get back in the car right after the game, and drive back to Iowa 17 hours. That's dedication.
Duel knocks it away. 17 seconds on the shot clock and 2 minutes and 42 seconds to go in this afternoon's game.
It's amazing looking out there, Jamar Wilson. He is still playing like we're 2 minutes into the game. I mean, he is so fired up right now. And now you see a little bit of that New York game. The kid from the Bronx showing you a little bit of and one mixtape type move there.
29 points for Jamar Wilson. A celebration for the America East Player of the Year, as the #1 seed has owned the afternoon on their home floor. Trimboli along the baseline, and he's now 3 for 13 from the field. So the leading scorer for Vermont has really struggled today.
Well, he's going to remember this. He's just a freshman. He's got a great career ahead of him here, and continue to work on his game, get stronger, and can only get better and take this experience and use it in the years to come.
Wilson again, the extra pass to another Wilson who can't hit as Jamar found Brent. And a reminder, coming up just a moment from now as Championship Week presented by 7-Up continues with the America East Championship. Bob Wischusen and Donnie Marshall wrapping things up here in Albany. We'll be going at 2:07 for the tip between Texas A&M and #8 Texas in the Big 12 semifinals. And here comes the curtain call for Albany. On the next timeout, the top players for the Great Danes will all exit and take a bow. Inside, a chance for a three-point play for Chris Holm. But Will Brown has his reserves poised to enter the game, and here they come.
And that's nice. You give the kids who don't really play a lot to come in a championship game, a place they've never been before. They can take this with them in their memories and in the history books and say, I played in that game. And then you send off your studs who got you the win the right way and let the crowd cheer for them. And look how excited these guys are, and they deserve it.
The countdown is on here in Albany. 1 minute and 20 seconds remaining. The Great Danes will win the American East Championship for the first time ever after they won the regular season title for the first time ever. And a chant of "Let's Go Dancing" breaking out here at the rack. David Bauman lost it in the lane. Trimboli the other way. And he just keeps on playing hard, doesn't he? Mike Trimboli.
He is tough. The kid out of Norwalk, Connecticut, again, he's going to have a bright future ahead of him. And never give up, no matter what. You continue to play, no matter what the score says on that board over there.
Minute to go in the America East Championship game as Siggers blasts in for an easy bucket. The celebration is on. Will Brown and his Great Danes have culminated the greatest season in the history of Albany University basketball as they are about to head to the NCAA tournament But not for 15 more seconds after a foul has been called.
Mike Trimboli said, I'm not ready to finish. I know this is going in the record books. I'm going to shoot 2 more free throws.
And for Doc Sowers, he has to feel at least partially responsible for what has now been built here at Albany.
Of course, he has banners up there, and he understands how big this is for this university, taken to another level. And any great coach is going to sit back and say, you know what, good for them. They're at another level. I had success at the level we played at the Division II level, and they deserve where they are. And I'm sure he's going to be the first to tell Will Brown he's done just a wonderful job this season.
The championship t-shirts and hats have already been passed out on the Albany bench. Mike Trimboli sits down after a courageous afternoon. He struggled, and the countdown on. Inside of 10 seconds to go. Albany is heading to the NCAA tournament for the first time ever. What a scene at the rack.
And if that's not excitement, Bob, I don't know what is.
Thanks so much for joining us at the America East Championship game, and congratulations to the Albany Great Danes heading to their first ever NCAA tournament. For Donnie Marshall and our entire crew, a wonderful job by them. I'm Bob Wischusen. Good afternoon from Albany. Now to the Big 12 Championship, Texas and Texas A&M.